Depression is defined as feelings of severe despondency and dejection. It is a mental condition that comes with feelings of inadequacy and guilt, often accompanied by lack of energy and disturbance of appetite and sleep. Depression can be caused from many different things. One of the main reasons is self-doubt. Depression is considered to be a chemical imbalance of the brain, and oftentimes patients with depression are treated with medication and therapy, but often these types of treatment are not effective, and the depressed then turn to suicide. With this being said, some doctors and patients believe in legalizing suicide to allow the mentally ill to die in a dignified way. But due to the fact that euthanasia is legal in few states in the United States and a few countries in Europe, some argue that depression can match a terminally ill disease in the sense that both are incurable. Patients with depression may receive assisted suicide, which is the suicide of a patient suffering from an incurable disease, affected by taking lethal drugs provided by a doctor for this purpose. Since when are we allowed to control when we die? God gave us life. Who are we to decide when it should end? The fact that in some places it is legal for some people to claim they are depressed and receive lethal drugs without much proof is extremely immoral, and this outrages me. First, let's discuss exactly why I'm speaking to you today. I am so outraged by assisted suicide because I value life so highly. There are people out there that would do anything for just one more day on earth. It is so unfair for people who fight for their lives daily, whether it is because of illness or whatever reason. Imagine how hard it is for those people to just see a depressed patient take their life. Life is just too precious to carelessly take. Depression can cause irrational thoughts, which is another reason that depressed patients should not be allowed to make the decision to die. The imbalance of chemicals in their brain causes rash decisions. With that being said, in the U.S., there are 5 states that allow assisted suicide, and Europe has 4 countries, and the numbers are growing every single day. This poll shows that every day in Belgium, 5 assisted suicides occur. Per year, that is 1,825, and this is only in one of the 9 places that assisted suicide is legal. The next image shows an interesting comparison between the opinions of moral actions from people of the U.S. Near the bottom, you can see that only 15% of people think suicide is morally acceptable, yet if you look near the top, it shows that 45% of people from the same poll find doctor-assisted suicide morally acceptable. I find this 100% contradictory. In Oregon, in 1997, a law was passed allowing death with dignity to occur. If you look at this graph, you can clearly see the amount of people able to receive the lethal dose of medication to end their life. From the time this law was passed in 2014, you can see a steady increase in people capable of receiving treatment. If you look at the green bars, those have increased as well. The green bars symbolize those whose deaths were actually confirmed from self-administered death. Approximately 60% of people allowed to take lethal injections actually took them. Not to mention, the Catholic Church is highly against this type of action. Assisted suicide violates just about every law associated with the Catholic teaching. Ending life in any type of way is against what the Church believes. The magisterium has also spoke out on assisted suicide. They declare that suicide is always as morally objectionable as murder. It has been said to be a gravely evil choice, and St. Augustine once said, "It is never licit to kill another, even if he should wish it." He begs for freeing the soul against the struggling body. Assisted suicide clearly violates what we have so intently studied this semester in morality. As seen in this picture, Article 1 of our Christian morality text explains exactly why God created us and what His plan is. According to the text, we are created for love and happiness, and to live in a loving relationship with God. Ending our own life by choice is a direct violation of this. The dignity of human life is being violated, no doubt, but I understand why depressed patients do desire this type of death. They want to end their suffering in a dignified way rather than make themselves in pain and everyone else seeing them in pain. But still, there are other options for patients with depression, which will be discussed later. There is a series of laws broken by the action of assisted suicide. Natural laws defined as our ability to understand what it means to be in a right relationship with God. Ending life ruins this relationship and connection with God is broken. Assisted suicide also violates law of the Old Testament and New. One of the 10 Commandments clearly states, "Thou shalt not kill." It seems pretty self-explanatory that assisted suicide is contradictory to this. Now, for civil law, it is obvious that killing is a universal legal law. But is it still considered killing if a doctor prescribes lethal medication for someone that's depressed? To what extent does the doctor carry responsibility? And for the patient, well, no laws can be set because they won't be there for the consequences. Currently, assisted suicide is legal in these places. Not only does assisted suicide violate many laws, it is extremely sinful. Despite taking the moral, object, intent, and circumstances into account, it is still sinful. I do understand that the depressed think they have no other choice and that their circumstances cannot get better, but they can. It just takes time. All it takes for patients to be capable to receive lethal medication is 2 oral requests and then a 15-day wait period. In some places, the doctor can prescribe the medicine after just 2 days. I find this absurd. That's definitely not enough time to consider circumstances and how many people will be affected by the one death. Certainly, depressed patients have a good intent. They want to end their suffering, and not because of problems for friends and families, but by ending their life only creates more pain and suffering for those who love them. Not only does assisted suicide violate all qualifications for a sin, it violates more than a few types of sin. For doctors, they are committing the sins of commission. Although the doctor isn't directly killing a patient, they still have partial responsibility. A sin of commission is considered a venial sin in this situation. But personally, I believe that the person committing suicide is committing a moral sin, which is a serious offense against God. We are so blessed with the gift of life, it must hurt God to see people wanting to leave the gift He gave us. A social sin is a sin that can sometimes be accepted into society, like abortion, for example, and also assisted suicide. This can definitely be considered a social sin, due to the fact that it is only legal in a few places. Another reason I am outraged by assisted suicide is because it clearly goes against Jesus' teachings of the Beatitudes from the Sermon on the Mount. He taught that the poor in spirit shall live in the kingdom of heaven. If only the depressed could realize this during their suffering, knowing that this would provide a strong sense of hope and reassurance that things could get better. Jesus also taught that those who mourn will be comforted. By taking their own lives, the depressed will not seek the comfort of God in heaven which they need. Those that take their own lives show the virtue of greed. It is selfish to leave the earth when God has so much planned for us. Suffering and pain is only temporary, but being in heaven with God lasts forever. If doctors, families, and friends showed compassion, they would really change the mind of the depressed person. After all, doctors take an oath to do everything possible for preserving their patients' lives, and prescribing lethal medication surely violates this. To remedy this injustice, all types of euthanasia, and including assisted suicide, must be made illegal. There is so much worth living this life for.